Hey everybody, welcome back to Culture Drop. I'm Jed, and I'm joined once again by cultural critic and author William Devitt. We're going to continue our conversation from the last episode. And some of the topics we're going to touch on today, I think you'll find them quite interesting, are the Clash, the Replacements, Stones and Beatles, outtakes, guitars, recording and overdubbing, George Harrison, the Ringo and Paul reunion on the new Beatles video, Bill Wyman's bass playing, Mick Jones from The Clash, his pop-up store, Paul Simonon from The Clash, his painting. We're going to talk about Bruce Springsteen, Robbie Robertson, Ron Wood's painting. We're going to talk about heroes beyond music, Bono's voice, what makes a great voice versus a great singer. We ended up talking about Lou Reed beyond those topics. We're going to save that for part 3 on a separate podcast after this one, so enjoy the podcast.
I didn't realize Ed Stacey was actually Tommy the engineer back then. Or not the engineer, but I think he did the mix. Tommy Ramone's mix. It's really, that whole series, the Replacements releases, they've done, 4 of them now. I hope they do one for every album, I'm sure.
It was a real travesty what they did sonically, and some of those covers were terrible too. Like Tim is the worst cover ever.
Exactly.
What was the point of that? Or
yeah, exactly.
Pleased to Meet Me.
Pleased to Meet Me is kind of funny.
That's a little cooler, a little more conceptual. Whereas Tim is just nothing.
It's a big nothing sandwich. Don't Tell a Soul, with Paul, that's pretty awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think, and with the liner notes, Bob Mayer, who wrote the book Trova was, does the liner notes for all and they're all like mini novellas.
Yeah.
They are so good, and he's won an award. Grammys, at least one for one of them, for best liner notes. They are so well thought of. The only thing they're missing is a DVD, a live show or something.
Yeah.
They're absolutely the best box sets I think anybody thus far has released.
Yeah.
They even have the vinyl. Joe Strummer. See pictures and wow. The first time I saw, I think you have a copy of that show, and it's from '79.
Right.
At the Civic Center, and at one point, Mick says, and I have some pretty clear memories because I was pretty much sober at the show. But that came back to me from hearing the bootleg. And at one point, Mick says, "Yeah, cool out, shorty." Because Joe's being obnoxious or something. Yeah, he's Joe. I'm Mick. He's Joe. And at some point, Mick says, on mic, something like "cool out, shorty."
To Joe?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's kind of funny. But I remember the Armageddon times, they only released 2 issues.
Yeah.
The third was the liner notes. The third final volume was the liner notes from Sandinista.
Yeah.
But the Armageddon times, I had the 2 magazines, I bought them at Orfolk, imports when they came out.
Did they come out as magazines?
Yeah, I still got them, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Probably worth something.
Oh,
yeah, they're
interesting.
just like fanzines. Right?
Okay.
And, hand scribbles and photos. It's like, fanzines. But they have little profiles, kind of like the Beatles or whatever, of each member of the band and the, likes, fave drink, things like that. And,
right.
Height. And for Mick, his height is quite tall.
Yeah. Mick always seemed quite tall, and Joe is probably pretty short, right?
Right, yeah. I'm maybe 6 feet tall. I don't know. When I saw Carbon Silicone, well, you were there too.
That's right.
Me and Dolly were looking for a parking. We had just pulled down the campus, and we were stopped for some people walking in front of us, 4 guys, and Dolly goes, "Oh, there's some revelers." And first thing I noticed it was, well, they all had like really, they were very well dressed. They all had like a quarter length, coats on. I think it was autumn or something. Not long overcoats, but like, down to your thigh. In fact, call it a quarter length cut. And on one of them had, like, clearly his Rastafarian hair up in, like in a big bun, like Rastas do.
Perhaps, but going by the name of Leo Ezekiel Williams.
Yeah, and I was like looking at these people walking right in front of our car. And they crossed the street, and they were clearly all holding, coffee cups from, a coffee shop.
Oh, funny.
And they get to the other side of the street. I roll down the window, and I like, "Yo, Mick, Tony, Easy Kill," or maybe I call him Leo. I don't know. And I didn't know the drummer back then, Dominique. But and they all stopped. And Mick waves like he's waving, like he's one of the Beatles waving to fans in the stadium or something. And like, you could tell by his body language at least, because they all turned to look.
Yeah.
He was welcoming. He wanted us to come over and chat.
Yeah.
And I didn't. And I'm like, "See you guys in a bit. See you." And I'm waving furiously, and I was actually wearing, like a scally cap, like an Irish, kind of hat. So maybe he liked my hat or something, if he could even see me in the dark.
Yeah.
But, and clearly he was wearing a suit under his very elegant, coat. But I just remember this guy, he's just a few feet away, waving like, you could just tell, come on over.
Yeah.
Come on over and have a chat, his body language. And after the show, indeed, my nephew Vinny, who was all 17 at the time, did hang out at their tour bus, which was indeed Dolly Parton's old tour bus. They were touring the country in Dolly Parton's bus. That's not just a lyric from one of the Carbon Silicone songs. But, and Mick gave him a Heineken. And my sister Ann, Vinny's mom, my late sister Ann, late beloved sister Ann, wasn't too happy about that.
Oh.
She was not a puritanical woman at all. She's a very wise and humane woman and a wonderful mother, too. But she, because you had to have the bracelet to order a drink at the varsity, show you're of age. They even carded me, because I got like 4 drinks, right off the bat before the band started.
This is the show I saw with you?
Yeah, you were there. We only met at the beginning of the show.
Right.
There was an outside bar in the lobby, and there might have been one.
Well, that's cool. I didn't know about that whole other backstory.
Oh, yeah. So they got to hang out, and I was going to hang out. I met some of Vinny's friends, and a bunch of girls, and they made fun of my hat and said, "You're wearing an old man hat." I said, "I am an old man."
Yeah, what do you want?
Yeah, right. Well, I was probably, 50 or 40, 48 or something at the time. I don't know what it was, but I wasn't that old. But I couldn't find Vinny, and turns out they all went over and hung out at Carbon Silicone's bus and chatted with Mick.
I'm a little bummed. I don't think Mick has done much since then, has he?
No, he's worked on some production on some people's albums here and there. People you haven't heard of, or young bands. No, they just kind of. I don't know if they don't exist, or, well, obviously all the players still exist, but I think Mick is probably, he might just be smart enough to say, you know what, I don't need to do this anymore. I'll do it for fun when I feel like it.
Yeah.
I don't need the money. I'm an old man now. I've made my mark a couple times.
Yeah.
The Big Audio Dynamite. I've affected the culture,
Yeah.
For positive a couple different times in my life. And
that's right. I mean, how many people can say that? The Clash and Big Audio Dynamite, he made an impact on the culture with 2 different sonic templates.
Yeah, maybe he's just saying, I'm not Mick Jagger. I mean, God bless Mick,
Yeah.
Mick J. Well, Mick Jagger as opposed to Mick Jones, but I'm not Peter Pan. I'm not going to pretend to be Peter Pan, and people just walk away from it,
Yeah.
Westerberg, what's Paul Westerberg doing, will he ever do anything again,
Yeah, that's an interesting one. He just kind of lives in his rabbit hole in Edina, apparently.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that's the.
I read that interview. I think you sent me an interview, that link to interview with Paul Westerberg.
I think I have. Which one?
I recently read one. I think you sent it to me. He was like getting interviewed like in his house.
Oh yeah. I think
It was around the time of the Juliana Hatfield thing.
Right. The I Don't Cares. Right. Yeah.
That was interesting, just to kind of read a recent interview with him, relatively recent.
Yeah. And maybe, he's a man with. He's had many problems. He had many problems before he was even in rock and roll bands as a youth, as we all know now with the book, the biography, Trouble Boys. But he apparently just listens to jazz and old Faces records occasionally, like jazz records. And I don't know, maybe what are you supposed to do? Maybe you just get tired of it. It's like, well, I don't, apparently he drinks a little bit again, or maybe a lot, and he's made no secret of having to do medication and antidepressants and all that kind of thing.
I remember is that to share with you the first time I ever heard the Replacements. Maybe I've told you the story. I was in Northern Lights when it was that little hole in the wall, kind of long alley next to Moby's.
Yeah, it's on 6th and Hennepin.
And they were cranking Within Your Reach, and I was like, "What is this? This is so cool." And then
I remember hearing that when Katie was always playing the Hootenanny album.
Yeah, and on the Hootenanny album, and then Let It Be came out around that time, and that's when I got into them, and I was the perfect age for it, because 16 Blue came out, and I was 16 at the time. It's like, it really felt like it was the soundtrack, along with the big music, one of the soundtracks to my life at that time.
Right, so dig this. Within Your Reach was my favorite Replacement song, other than the first album, which I still, at the time felt nostalgic about, even though it was only 2 years old. But that was my favorite song on the album, and my favorite Replacements record. Why? Because it had a drum machine, a really cheesy, crappy drum machine, but that's what drum machines sounded like back then. And it had the soothing synthesizer, which kind of sounded like the atmosphere that a lot of the big music bands were creating,
Oh yeah, at the end of it, Within Your Reach?
Well, the whole song.
Yeah.
It's just, the guitars sound really cool and everything.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation, because I always think of the dun, 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 the guitar part with the phasing. I never really think about the keyboard part, but that was instrumental to the track.
Right. I mean, it's great guitars, but it was the feel of the track, that sort of ambient, vaguely ethereal, vaguely spiritual sound of the drum machine and the synth. Mm-hmm. And of course, the vocal's great. It's a very yearning vocal, and great lyric, and just a great chord progression. But that was the only Replacement song for a year and a half when I was living with Katie, that I actively liked listening to.
Yeah.
Because it didn't sound like the Replacements,
Right.
It sounded like, whatever I was into, the big music. So.
Yeah. No, I agree. That was the one I liked the best on that album, too. Because, I never really got into, the Replacements before that, the harder, screaming faster stuff.
Yeah, well, there's only 2 records. There's, one of them is the EP.
The Stink one I never really got into.
Yeah, there's only I mean, I love it now. You know, it's loads of fun. And the very last song called Go, it's like a minute and a half.
Yeah, Go almost reminds me a little bit of Within Your Reach. It's got that yearning kind of.
Yeah, it's very dark and very really scary vocals.
Yeah, that's a precursor to like what was to come.
Yeah, right, exactly. But the first album, you know, there was an article in the Star Tribune with Peter Jesperson. And I remember it had a big impact on me. John Breen was asking me, so what are you listening to? The Only Ones. And I made a mental note of The Only Ones.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard, them yet. And The Replacements.
Yeah.
And I made a note of that. I've heard of these. Oh, yeah, my brothers, Chris and Sean have seen this band, the Caboose, and at the, Zoogies, which used to be, Longhorn. And so when the album came out, I remember the day it came out, I bought Sorry Ma and Tattoo You. Both came out, I think, the same day. Well, then I bought them on the same day.
Yeah.
And so it was just great fun.
Yeah.
I was in my first band with my brother Matt and Nick.
Yeah.
I was actually playing bass and singing, and Matt was drumming, and Nick was playing guitar and not really singing much, just doing, backing and hollering. He ended up being a great singer, great meaning like Al Green quality. So I love that just for the spirit, just for the zany, wacky hilarity.
Yeah.
But then The Stink came out, and that was 82, and I kind of like, there's so much. 1982 is like the greatest year for music. I mean, ever. There's just so much other stuff.
I remember being so bummed out because MTV was just coming out. I remember seeing Combat Rock, Rock the Casbah by The Clash, and Town Called Malice by The Jam. And right when I discovered both those bands, they both broke up.
Yeah, isn't that weird? I mean, I was into them, from the get-go.
You were, yeah. But for me, that was like my entry point to both those bands, and I was a little younger than you.
Right.
So I was like, I got all their back catalog, and then they both broke up like that same year, or 83.
Right. And of course, their final albums, Combat Rock and The Gift are both their weakest albums.
No, I love The Gift, and I love Combat Rock.
To me, a buddy in Australia once asked me, what's your favorite Clash album? I said, Neil Young once said, it's all the same song. It's all just one big long song. And I said, it's all one big album to me. And he loved that Ken Chow. He's a Chinese-born Australian. And he's a poet, published poet, too.
Yeah.
That's right. You read his book.
Yeah.
He loved that quote. It's all one big album. What a great answer. And The Jam was like that, too, for me. Like, it's all one big album. I can't decide which my favorite is. Yeah,
well, that's what it's like when you listen to the Beatles' Red and Blue albums. You're like, what a body of work. You just can see it in a sweeping kind of way.
Well, yeah, but those are compilation albums.
Right, that's right.
So they're supposed to be that great.
Right, but I'm just saying, just to your point about it's one big body of work.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say about the Beatles' entire catalog.
Yeah. I
mean, I'm not the Beatles guy that you are, but I'm the Stones guy.
Yeah.
So I can say that about the Stones. Entire, how do you pronounce it? Oeuvre?
Yeah, now here's a question I have about the whole Stones thing. Like, I've watched some YouTube videos, you probably watched them too, where like this guy breaks down like all the times over the last like 15 years, Ronnie or Keith or Mick has said, oh yeah, we just been in the studio recording tracks, we got these tracks. What happened to all those tracks? I want to hear those.
Right. Yeah, especially, like, I thought the new album was going to be, like, half of it would be Charlie on drums.
Yeah, and now, they weave this big story. I think part of it is fake. Like, they just knocked this all out in the studio earlier this year. Some of it is clearly tracks they did with Charlie, so...
Right.
It's probably a bit of that and a bit of grabbing some things they did before, but I hope that they release some of that stuff.
Well, supposedly there's a second album, like, ready to go. But
okay.
They always say that. To your point, that's what they're always saying. especially. But Ronnie's really bad. You know, I think the guy's, you know, he's ADD or ADHD. You know, he's clearly he's a motor mouth, and he's a very, very friendly guy.
Yeah. Well, there's tons of, you know, just year after year, things are like, oh yeah, we just came out of the studio and recorded all these tracks, and all right, well, I want to hear those. It's the same with George Harrison, actually. Like, you know, supposedly, you know, there was the last album came out, Brainwashed, of the stuff he had been working on the last few years slowly in his studio. They finished it off, but you know, he had been working on tracks for forever, like all these different tracks, and I think there's still lots of stuff in the vault that could come out.
I've discussed this with, I know, David, and probably you too, comparing the Beatles and the Stones, outtakes and shit. And I think both you and David maintain there really isn't much Beatles as the Beatles outtake material. And what is there are just, it's not very good, it's just alternate takes or rehearsals. I think both of you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, please.
No, I will correct that. I don't think I would have said that. That's always been the party line from like the beginning. Like, there's just nothing. They were saying that even in the early '80s, they were going to release like, you know, this new Beatles song, "Leave My Kitten Alone," that they had recorded in 1964, and they were saying at that time, well, that's pretty much it. It's just that one song, and we found out later, you know, when they released 3 double CDs of anthology, that there were actually tons of songs and tons of totally different arrangements before they landed on the final arrangement. There's actually quite a lot of stuff, but the problem is they're such terrible historians of their own material. Like, they don't even remember necessarily what they did. Like, they just move on. You know, Paul and George and Ringo.
Yeah, they all had their serious solo careers, you know, going.
And yeah, but there's actually lots of stuff in the vaults that we're still discovering today.
Okay. In contrast to the Stones, and they repurposed this stuff for the reissues of, you know, albums, Exile, Sticky Fingers, Goat's Head Soup, Some Girls, Tattoo.
Right, or something, they'll forget about something they did and like bring it out. Like, wasn't Start Me Up actually like from something they recorded in '74 or something like that?
75, the Black and Blue sessions, yeah, and then they worked on it again for the Some Girl sessions, 78, and then, right. So they'll bring stuff out, you know, they've been pretty miserly, but at least they've been doing it. But the Stones are still an ongoing entity, you know, they're a corporation,
yeah.
You know. And their historians, their vault people aren't that much better than how you describe the Beatles. There's album quality, finished songs.
I bet.
Are you familiar with the fully finished outtakes thing that came out about a year and a half ago?
No.
Leaked?
No.
And a lot of people think it was 3 CDs worth of stuff from 63 to pretty much the present. And a lot of people think the Stones did it deliberately.
Yeah.
Just to kind of clear the vaults or whatever. And it was only for download, and there's some Japanese CD copies were printed out, and they all ended up on eBay, and there probably still are some on eBay.
Oh, okay.
If you're a downloading guy, you should look for this.
Okay.
I'm sure it's available, you know, for download. I don't download. I never learned. I'm just not going to get into it. I could send you a YouTube video of an hour and a half worth of, I think it's the first 2 CDs.
Oh yeah, send it my way.
And that goes from 63 up to, I think the last couple songs are from the Undercover sessions.
Yeah.
And it's called Fully Finished Outtakes. Not a very creative album title. And it's 3 CDs. Apparently it's been expanded to 4 CDs now within the last year and a half.
Yeah.
And the Stones have not said boo about it in interviews or anything. They
Oh,
haven't
interesting.
said one word. So nobody knows if it's... And a lot of the stuff, some of the stuff has been bootlegged in inferior sound quality.
One reason the Beatles did this too, they'll quietly release something just like on streaming for copyright reasons, because you need to publicly release something to claim a copyright. Renew it for another 50 years. So sometimes that's what they do, and they don't talk about it.
Right. Dylan did that with, I think, the Nashville Skyline sessions, which featured George. And it was apparently some legendary sessions with
that's right.
With George, and it's like 4 or 5 songs or something.
Yeah,
I think it's Nashville Skyline, or maybe John Wesley Harding, one of those sessions. But it was the same thing. He released like a European, German and Austrian, CD pressing.
Yeah.
But didn't release them. People are apparently hoping they'll come out, on the official bootleg series,
Yeah, but looping back to the Stones, one thing I love about the Stones that the Beatles don't have is that guitar interplay, like in stereo, that basket weaving thing between Ronnie and Keith, which the Church had and Jimmy Reed had. There's something about that.
Big Country.
And like on the new Stones album, it's still got those beautiful creative riffs, the interplay between those two guys. It's just such a delight to hear.
It is. And what's weird about the sound of the record is that there's some kind of processing that's making them sound like really, not precise, but really not in your face. There's a sheen, which I take some getting used to.
Yeah.
But it's like the songs are all, other than, Sweet Sounds of Heaven, they're all really short. It's only 12 songs on the record. The whole record's 48 minutes long.
Yeah.
Unlike, Bigger Bang, which is like, a full CD, 80 minutes,
Oh, okay.
I think are a lot of filler. But, if you're a fan, well, if that filler could just be B-sides, they don't make CD singles anymore, so you want them anyways, why not just put them on the album? So I don't have a problem with length of albums. I'm a big fan of Sandinista, you got to remember.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, the sound, there is something really heavily processed. You have this guy, Andrew Watt, he's a young guy, and he's produced people like Justin Bieber, and, he did McCartney's last one, he did Iggy Pop's last one. But yeah, he's a modern producer. And I think what happens with a lot of people, industry people, is they may not have, actual endorsements from, electronics companies, but they're heavily pressured, and they probably anyway, just due to their age, using toys.
Yeah, and that happened with that Stones Blues album, which is a great album, but it had that heavy reverb. The harmonica was maybe too loud, and I would have mixed it a totally different way.
You said that at the time, and I just disagree. I think it's a wonderful sounding record. It sounds like what would happen if you got 6 guys in a room.
Yeah.
Recording.
Yeah. It's a minor quibble. I still like the album a lot.
Yeah, it is very loud. The mastering, it is very, compressed and very loud. But it's the reverb thing. You got to remember, Jed, I have a really crappy sound system. I've been using it for many years. This, knock wood, it's still working. This Bose, clock radio. So, in my defense, but I think my ears are still pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, your ears are obviously pretty good too. So in my defense, I don't listen. So if I listen to the same song on my crappy little, $20, 20-year-old computer speakers, and then listen to the same song on my 25-year-old Bose clock radio, they sound completely different.
Sure.
Just due to the, just sonically different. So what? I've been going off on a tangent here, but the guitar thing is really cool, and it's not just some myth or legend that Keith made up.
No, that's and that's music, right? That you can't fake that with overdubbing. That's two guys interacting with each other, playing off each other, playing to the song.
I'm not sure how because they like to say, oh, we record the album just the way we always record the Stones. It's all the guys in the room, standing there in the room.
Yeah.
Okay, I believe that's true, but what about the tracks that Keith was playing bass on the album? Well, that's an overdub.
Oh, he played bass on this album?
Sure, at least three songs that I know of.
Okay. I know that they played live on that Bite Your Head Off thing with McCartney. That would have been fun to see.
Right. The producer, Andrew Watt, played bass. He's credited with at least 4 songs.
Oh, really? What about Daryl?
No, Daryl he had touring commitments. He doesn't play on it at all.
Oh, interesting.
On A Bigger Bang, their last, 18 years ago, Jagger plays bass on a couple songs.
Really?
That's how they worked that album up, just Mick and Keith.
Wow.
Mick playing drums, and both of them playing bass, both of them playing guitar, and then Charlie, who's recovering from throat cancer surgery, came in, and Charlie's just a beast on that album, A Bigger Bang.
Yeah.
And then then Daryl came in, overdubbed his bass parts, and Woody came in and overdubbed his. So it sounds very live, like they're all in the room at the same time. It's not really true. It's how they record. It's their aesthetic.
Yeah.
It's their approach to making records.
Right. Well, yeah. So even if they're overdubbing, I mean, they're still playing. They're still weaving, playing off each other in a certain respect.
Now, the track on the new album, Live by the Sword, that Bill Wyman plays on, is a Charlie track from 2019, and apparently it's everybody was overdubbed. They isolated Charlie's drums. Keith wasn't there. Keith or Woody wasn't there. Well, maybe Woody was, but Keith wasn't there when Bill did his overdub. So their aesthetic, they sound like a swinging, rocking live band no matter what they're doing. Have you ever heard this track from 2011? It's on a tribute album to Ian Stewart called Boogie for Stew. It's a charity album.
Yeah.
Ben Waters. Anyway, it's Charlie and Bill and Charlie on all of it pretty much, and a bunch of different people, all friends. Ben Waters, hotshot piano player, played with Charlie for decades. It's a boogie thing. PJ Harvey has a song.
Yeah, I remember that album.
Anyway, there's a Stone song. They do Dylan's Watching the River Flow.
Okay.
And it sounds like this. It's a great groove. It just devolves into this great New Orleans, horn groove.
Yeah.
For a fade out. It's like 6 minutes long. And it was recorded with just Charlie and Bill and Woody in England with Ben Waters and the horns. Mick literally phoned in from Paris his lead vocal and harmonica part.
Yeah.
He phoned in literally from New York City his guitar part.
Ah.
It sounds like they're all in the same room. The nature of the music is it sounds like, hard rock, crusty, blues, rhythm and blues-based music. And the Rolling Stones playing Bob Dylan song at that. So that's just their aesthetic. So a lot of the myth behind, live and no overdubs. The Blue and Lonesome album that we were just discussing really was apparently recorded in 3 days.
That was. I saw an interview with Keith recently where he's like, and this really stuck with me, he's like, the Stones were not a rock band. We were a rock and roll band. We had the roll, we had the feel. That's what's key to the Stones, and I think that really put his finger on something.
Yeah.
It wasn't, rock is, just 4 beats to the measure, kind of regimented. He's like, no, we had the roll.
Right. The rock is the European martial tradition.
Right. That's
martial
right.
Sound of the hard, lockstep, beats and tempos and patterns.
Yeah.
The roll is the African aspect of it. The looseness, Yeah, I've used that delineation for years, or decades now. I like rock and roll, not rock. Well, Big Country weren't a rock and roll band; they were a rock band, a very weird and unique rock band.
Yeah.
They certainly weren't a rock and roll band. I use Big Country as an example because they're a favorite, and I love the rhythm section. And, well, I love everything.
Yeah, but there's something about like those Celtic melodies on the guitars that kind of give it a certain role.
But yeah, sure. And these are guys that they were extremely technically proficient musicians.
Yeah.
So they could play a wide variety of music, a much wider variety of proficiently than probably even the Stones can play.
But yeah, no, I see your point though. It's not the same kind of role.
African role.
That's right.
Playing. It doesn't have a grounding in American. I mean,
that's right. Totally.
Evolved into that later. They lost the Celtic thing, just became kind of a very good hard rock band.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
But speaking of phoning it in, one interesting thing on that new Beatles track is when Paul and Ringo overdubbed their new parts, they couldn't be bothered to do it in the same room together. They just each phoned it in separately, which I thought was kind of strange.
Oh, really?
You'd think they would spend the time to just get together and do it.
Do they not get along?
No, they do, but for whatever reason, Ringo, the way Ringo works, he's like, all right, I'm going to listen to the song twice, I'm going to record my part twice, and boom, I'm done, and that's just how he works.
Oh, well, okay. If he's being true to himself and his working methods, then I guess that's okay.
And Paul had, and I guess Ringo had already done some drums on it. Paul had already done a bass part, but he's like, well, let me redo this. Let me give it some careful thought. And, he added some more guitars as well and stuff like that, backing vocals.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting about Ringo because, he's certainly amongst the Beatles, he's not the best singer. He's got a very distinctive voice, and I love his voice. I think we all, but he's not a great singer like the rest of them were,
No.
A great natural voice. But I like that. 2 takes and I'm done. That's it.
Yeah, he just goes on feel. He's like, I'm Ringo. I feel it out. I don't read the charts. Boom. There's your Beatle drums.
Yeah. I'm not Bob Dylan. We'll do 37 takes and they'll all sound radically different. It's kind of inspiring in a way, having this go on with these brash young new bands from England, Beatles and Stones.
Yeah, both those bands have a bright future ahead of them, I'm sure of it.
Now, why won't Paul and Ringo work together, though?
Well, I mean, they're still buddies. They had dinner the other night. There was like an Instagram photo. But
as a rhythm section, period. Flat out, we are a rhythm section. They can both sing. Ringo can sing and drum at the same time very well.
I mean, why don't they work together, like, just doing other stuff?
Do an album, do a tour, do a charity thing, do a one-off gig, video it, release it as an album, get Johnny Marr on guitar. Let's see, who would be another guitar player would be? Ronnie Wood maybe, and do a set of Beatles songs, contribute it to charity, make a video, a DVD of it, or streaming as they do these days. Release the album.
This says,
you can touch it up in the studio, whatever.
Well, because Paul's been asked this question before, believe it or not, and he totally balked at it. He's like, if you start doing that, people are just going to ramp up their expectations of like, this is trying to be like the second Beatles, and they'll never be able to match.
Do anything. Do songs from their solo careers.
Why?
Paul solo, Ringo solo, John solo, George solo. Do anything you want. Do Chuck Berry. Do Little Richard. Why? Why couldn't they do that?
Yeah, they're both alive. Nothing's stopping them.
Alive. They're not going to be, and they're both in good shape musically and physically, apparently. The Stones can do it. The Stones are a big corporation. Paul and Ringo are as big a corporation as the Rolling Stones. You know?
Yeah.
Are they not a very good rhythm section anymore together? Maybe they aren't. I don't know. You know?
Yeah, all I know is that Paul's not interested in doing that.
What's his deal? That's what I'm wondering.
He's too cool for school. He's got his own thing going. He's got his own band. He's got his own thing. He's got Abe Laboriel Jr., who's a great drummer.
Yeah, I know. That's the big heavy guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Sure. And the Rolling Stones have Darryl Jones. They were never the same after Bill quit. And I can hear it.
Yeah.
You know, I can hear it and I can feel it.
Did you think Bill was a great bass player for the Stones?
Bill, I think, is my favorite bass player of all time. That's including Fernando Saunders, or, Duck Dunn.
What I always thought what impressed me about Bill is, when the Stones went like disco, like Bill was right on it. He had his disco licks. I mean, that guy was pretty versatile.
Apparently, the bass line in "Miss You," Billy Preston taught him that.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Like a clavinet, a keyboard.
Interesting.
Bill, just was playing along on bass and.
Okay.
Learned it, but that's what Bill has said. Bill's the band's historian. Anything Bill says about the Stones, you can take it to the bank.
Yeah.
Anything Keith or Woody says, Mick will just flat out say, "I don't know."
Yeah.
I don't remember. But Bill knows.
And I don't know how those guys are about their own history, but like the Beatles were terrible. Like George Harrison and John Lennon didn't even know like what year they recorded things, and Paul is also. Like, I know more about Beatles history, like, when they record things than they do.
Oh, for sure. There are a lot of fans like that about bands, People sometimes, they get liner notes wrong.
Yeah, and then Paul, all the Beatles, like, they'll say, like, oh, yeah, when we recorded Revolver, what was it, like, 65? It's like, they don't even know what year it was they recorded certain things.
These are guys who've been around, they've had a couple drinks in their time.
Well, and the other thing is they're creators. They don't look back. They're always on to the next thing. They're not interested in reading books about themselves.
Well, that's true. And it's certainly true of a guy like Jagger.
Yeah.
Who is notorious for not looking back. He hates nostalgia.
Okay, interesting.
He uses it to, for business reasons when it comes up, obviously, in the Angry video or whenever, for business and commercial, mercenary reasons. For a guy like that, I don't know that much about McCartney, for example, compared to Mick. But, Keith, he's this guy, the past and, rock solid foundation and roots and all that. He gets stuff wrong too.
The thing.
I can't remember. They smoked a few joints in that time,
The thing I will say about McCartney, I don't know if this is true. I guess it's true with Bill Wyman. Is McCartney is an incredible archivist. Like, he saved everything, and apparently he's got a giant vault underneath London. And so, like, whenever a book comes out or a box set, he has his people go find stuff, and he's got photos and documents, always fascinating stuff he can dig up.
And it's bomb-proof. It's like Prince's vault or something. I can see that in Macca. Yeah, Mick Jones is like that too. He's got his rock and roll library, which he actually had on tour for a couple of years, as a pop-up store.
Oh, really?
Back there, pay admission, come see his videos and his books and his record collection. Just cultural, ephemera.
Yeah, I remember when he had that thing in London. I didn't realize it was going to various locations.
Yeah, it's a big joke with Clash fans. It's like, why don't they release this stuff? Why won't Sony release this? Blah, 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 blah. It's all in Mick's shed, his garden shed.
Yeah.
Oh, Mick he found the vanilla tapes. Oh, it was in his shed. Shut up, Mick. You've had it fucking since London Calling.
Right.
I found a dubbed cassette copy that Johnny Green had supposedly lost on the tube, and Mick just found it for the 40th anniversary release of London Calling, or 25th, whatever it was, whatever anniversary it was, 25th, I guess.
Yeah.
Mick is a pack rat. everything.
Yeah.
And like, the Clash was so unrepresented and underserved, especially when you compare to the Beatles and the Stones. And
That's right.
The Clash in the same class, in the same group as both those bands, as far as greatness, but they're just underserved,
Yeah.
So Mick likes the idea of the fan trading community, bootlegs and fans doing remixes and mashups and doing their own software work and posting it on YouTube, which is all groovy and beautiful and wonderful.
Yeah, and
shed, or his bomb-proof, vault like McCartney and Prince,
Yeah, he's got to have a lot of great things down there. And the other thing is, like, timeline-wise, the amount of time the Clash were together putting out records was similar to the Beatles, actually. It's like a 6-year span, basically, whereas the Stones have got the advantage of being around a lot longer than those bands.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I have to say, like, you guys...
But think about how prolific the Beatles and the Clash were within those 6 years. It's just mind-boggling.
Not just prolific, but the bounds they made creatively.
Yeah, and the changes they went through.
Just pushing for stuff they weren't even capable of
right.
playing. They just played it anyway.
Yeah.
They were inventing it. Now, the Beatles had George Martin, who's, a great musician and a great producer in his own right.
The Clash had Topper Head and...
Well, yeah, and they brought in a lot of people for help, especially after London Calling,
Right, like when they did Mose Allison, for example, like a lot of that stuff, correct me if I'm wrong, on Sandinista had, they had, what's his name's, Mickey
Gallagher on keyboards.
Yeah.
In Durane's block.
Yeah, they were helping them musically on that, some of that, right?
Yeah, Norman Watt-Roy played above a half to a third of the album. Mickey Gallagher's all over it. Of course, Mick plays keyboards and so does Joe, and they play piano. There's all kinds of people. There's a pipe and drum sergeant major from British Army playing on Tim and Dog's Lose His Skin.
Yeah.
Tim and Dog. Tim and Dog was Joe's old busking buddy from Scotland on violin, who ended up in the Mescaleros.
Who's got a haunting female voice.
Well, yeah, and that's a really strange voice.
Right?
Yeah. You ever seen the movie Let's Rock Again? About documenting the Mescaleros, like right after 9/11?
Oh, yeah.
It's a wonderful film.
Yeah. That's right. Tim and Dog is in that band, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of footage of the band hanging out backstage and rehearsing and whatnot, and live as well. And Tim Dog actually talks like that, too. He doesn't have much of a Scottish brogue. I think he lived in England for most of his life. But he's got a really weird voice. He sounds like he sings, too.
Yeah. I remember hearing that at the time and, like, I don't know who that is, but that's just very haunting and strange and great. Yeah,
they recorded another song with him they haven't released during the Combat Rock sessions the next year. And it's equally haunting. It's not quite as fast. It's a little slower tempo, but it's got that crazy electric violin all over it. It's a Tim and Dog song.
Yeah.
And I've got an album release quality version that my buddy from Reading, England, he remastered the Clash's entire catalog. Next time we get together, well, maybe I'll just have to leave them with you because it'll take a lot of time for you to burn them and download them. But like he remixed London Calling. He got the stems from the band Rockstar.
Yeah.
He remixed it. Mixed the guitars up here mostly. The D3 organ on some track. Really, he actually mixed down the bass because it's so loud on the record, but made it deeper. Mixed the drums back because they're so loud on the record. He's got an instrumental version of the album, which I use sometimes for Tai Chi, which is his remix, but minus the vocals of London Calling. But anyway, there's all kinds of goodies on it. It's like
Yeah.
It's really, really haunting and weird.
Wow.
That's just where the Clash were going, kind of like the Beatles. Like, it's weird, cool, let's do it,
Yeah.
And, if, unlike the Beatles, who I think had, record company support from, EMI and Capitol, the Clash really didn't from, CBS. And that's why they released Sandinista, to get out of their horrible contract. Oh, we have to give you 3 albums? Okay, here's 3 of them right here,
Uh-huh.
It's everything we recorded in the last, 8 months. But just talking about pushing ideas. There's a scene in, West Ways of the World, Don Lett's documentary on the Clash, where Joe's talking about recording Sandinista, and Joe said, if somebody said, I want a balalaika on this track, everybody would say, give me the biggest balalaika.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
And so people who think the Clash died after the first or second album, it's not punk rock, that's not punk rock. Well, they just didn't get it from the get-go. They didn't get the point,
That's right. Yeah, I personally that first album is great, but you can already see the seeds in the first album, with the reggae stuff they were doing, that they were more than punk. And,
sure.
Where they got with London Calling and Sandinista creatively is so cool.
Yeah. Well, the second record, Give 'Em Up for Hope, a lot of people, even the Clash themselves, have, poo-pooed that, uptight production from Sandy Pearlman and whatnot. Too many guitar overdubs from Mick Jones. How could you have too many guitar overdubs? The only problem is the drums and bass are actually too quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And that was supposed to be their big American-sounding hard rock album. Well, why are the drums so buried in the bass too?
I saw an interesting documentary about the Dream Syndicate that just came out, and there's one Dream Syndicate album, I don't know if you ever got into them, called Medicine Show, that they did with Sandy Pearlman, and that was like their big major label debut. And apparently it really put Steve Wynn, the singer, at loggerheads with Sandy Pearlman, because Sandy made him re-sing his vocals so many times. And I don't know if he did that with the Clash or if he had a good relationship with the Clash, but he was known for making people redo their parts ad infinitum.
Yeah, apparently he did do that. They're recording at the Automat in San Francisco, laying down the basic tracks. That's where he, called Top of the Human Drum Machine, because apparently Topper got all his parts in 1 or 2 takes max, and then just left. They had to.
Wow. Which means they were really perfect, because Sandy would be, I'm sure if he made any little error, he'd make him redo it.
Yeah, and they had to send Topper back to the UK before he got into trouble, because he's a hyperactive, impatient guy who would like to mischief. But apparently, Pearlman did do that. I saw Dream Syndicate only once. I saw him open for U2 on the War Tour at Northrop.
Oh, were they good?
I can't remember.
Okay.
Because I was so keyed up. I was
sure
on a date with my boss.
Right. You weren't there to see the Dream Syndicate.
Huh?
You weren't there to see the Dream Syndicate per se.
Well, yeah, and that's stupid. But we were probably still finding our seats or whatever.
Yeah.
I eventually ended up in front of the stage. Half the audience bum rushed the stage. U2's first song, Out of Control. Bono, gestures for everybody to come down.
Yeah.
All the sim security guys in there, yellow shirts were just like holding their hands up, going, okay. Until we were right in front of the stage.
Yeah.
So I can't really remember. But Steve Wynn, isn't he the guy he's a writer now, music writer?
No, he's still in the Dream Syndicate, and he's got another thing called the Baseball Project with Peter Buck from REM and Linda Pittman.
Didn't he just write the book on the recording of Springsteen's Nebraska? It just came out. I haven't read it. Apparently it's great, and it's a musician from that era.
Yeah, I don't think it was him. Let's see who wrote that.
I think I've read. I think it might be.
Deliver Me from Nowhere, the making.
Yeah, it just came out like a few months ago, apparently.
Warren Zans.
Okay, who would he play with?
I don't know.
He was one of those neo-psychedelic American bands.
Okay.
From the early mid-'80s.
All right, let's look him up.
Maybe they weren't neo-psychedelic. Maybe it's like the Godfathers.
Warren Zans, American musician and writer, who's been known as the guitarist for the Del Fuegos. There you go.
The Del Fuegos.
And the biographer of Tom Petty, a PhD in visual and cultural studies. Yeah, so you're right. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Del Fuegos. I think I saw them open for U2 on the Joshua Tree tour.
Okay.
Were you at that show?
I saw the Joshua Tree tour in New Haven, Connecticut, and I don't remember who opened for them.
Okay. Well, who am I thinking of? Maybe it's not Del Fuegos. It's there's two brothers who sang, Sammy, and they sang on that Robbie Robertson, debut album on the track.
Oh, okay.
Daniel Lanois. Not Dream Syndicate, not Del Fuegos. Long Riders? No.
Yeah.
Well, okay, never mind. But, it's not who I was thinking of. Okay, Zane, what is it? The author's name?
Warren Zans.
Okay, right. Okay, never mind. I thought it was the Wynn guy from Dream Syndicate.
All right, so now you've got me looking up that first Robbie Robertson record.
Sammy and there's two guys that got really odd voices.
Personnel.
The name of the band is named after them.
Adam Clayton and the Edge and Bono play on that record.
Right, that's why I bought the album.
Sammy Bodine.
The Bodine.
Yeah, Bodine, Sam Lannis, and Kurt Neumann.
Right, okay, that's good.
Yep.
For some reason, I lump all those bands together. I have no idea if it's, but like the Dream Syndicate, the Long Riders, the Godfathers, might have even been British.
Yeah, because that was,
Bodine,
that had a Daniel Lanois production.
What, huh?
Daniel Lanois produced that record.
Right. Well, that's why I bought the records, because the U2 and Lanois, came out right after Joshua Tree.
Yeah.
And I don't like it very much these days. I don't like Robbie's voice.
Yeah, it's an acquired taste.
All those great singers, Levon Helm especially, but Richard Manuel and Rick Danko. These are truly great, rock and roll singers.
And Robbie was more of a stylist. I'm not sure singing was his strong suit.
No, I only did vague backing vocals with the band, but on the record he sounds so serious, like he's trying to be a serious musician.
Right. And he really found his calling later doing film soundtracks, I think, for Scorsese, stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm not trying to knock him. Well, I don't know. You've read his biography. You said it was really good. I believe it probably is, because he's probably a great writer, but he always just seemed like a really arrogant dude to me.
Yeah, I don't think I've read his biography. I've seen his movie.
Oh, I thought you said it. Well, maybe that's what you said. You saw the movie. I thought you said it.
He came out with a movie about his life a few years ago that was very interesting.
Oh, okay. Who directed it?
I don't remember.
It's just like documentary.
Yeah, it just came out like his life and about the band. It just came out just right before he died.
Oh, okay. Because I know he wrote a memoir.
Oh yeah, you know what? I take that back. You have a better memory than I do. I did read that.
Yeah, and I thought you said
I did read that. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're correct.
I've got mixed feelings. I mean, I love the band.
Yeah.
And, I love, his guitar playing, his writing.
Well, the thing is, he's kind of like Forrest Gump. Like, he was there, like, all these major, like, cool events in rock and roll history.
Forrest Gump.
that's why his book is so interesting. Like, he was there at so many cool pivotal Bob Dylan moments. He was there getting booed when they went electric, and he was there at Big Pink, and all that stuff.
Right. Forrest Gump. Robbie Robertson, the Forrest Gump of rock.
Right. That's why that book was so interesting. It was the Bob Dylan stories and stuff like that.
Right. And they're just some bar band from Canada.
Right.
Like, next thing you know, they're shaking hands with Richard Nixon and
exactly.
All the other things.
Pretty much.
You say that about Ron Wood too, I think. He's sort of a force. He's just everywhere, at all times. Knows everybody. And,
yeah, I remember reading Ron Wood's book when it came out, and I was so charmed by his wife, because he had all these pictures of loving pictures with his wife, and he's like,
right.
she comes to every show and wishes me well, and then shortly thereafter they broke up.
Right. I think he's just ADD.
Yeah.
I'm sure the drugs and the booze didn't help. Supposedly he's very, very likable, guy.
Oh, what a guy. And what's cool about him is he's such an artistic bohemian. I mean, his paintings are amazing.
He's very good.
And he does those set list art and all that cool stuff.
Yeah, I don't think he's as great as he thinks he is.
I think he's very talented. I mean, I'm not saying he's like Picasso, but I mean, he's not just some dude scribbling. He has a sensibility.
Oh, no, he is very good. You know who he looks like, oddly enough? His work reminds me of Paul Simons.
Oh, interesting.
Visual work. It's very impressionistic.
Yeah.
It almost looks like they both paint in watercolors somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very bright, very colorful, very almost Picasso-esque in some, the stuff that Picasso was known for. He was a great classically trained painter,
Yeah.
Renaissance, tradition. Kind of like Warhol was actually a great, graphic designer before he started, being angry.
And let's not forget ADD Charlie Watts, who would have to draw his hotel room every place he went. That's kind of interesting.
Charlie is an interesting chap, and no doubt about it. He'd have his suitcase had to be packed exactly the same way every time.
Yeah. He's the sartorial gentleman of rock and roll.
In a good way, apparently, by all accounts, in a very good way.
And the master of getting a huge power out of a very small kid.
Yeah.
Through his feel.
He's still, to my, a musical hero. But I want to ask you this. Here's how I'll pose the question. Heroes from the musical world that are beyond just the music. I can think of 3 of them, and Charlie is probably first. Otis Redding would be second, and Mick Jones would be third. Not Mick Jones from Foreigner. Mick Jones from that.
Yeah, you don't need to clarify that. I know which one you meant.
Yes. Well, there's also Mick Jones, a great English footballer too. So.
Okay.
Who you put any musicians in the beyond just their musical contributions to the culture and your life?
Yeah, I mean, Bob Dylan. He's almost like, I wouldn't say he's a poet, but there's something about his lyrics that almost transcend the music. They're so good.
He doesn't feel like a very nice man, though, does he?
No, but you're not asking me to vote on a personality contest.
Well, I'm kind of in my 3 selections. I'm putting that in.
You're counting that. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the Beatles. Part of what made the Beatles so great is their charming personalities.
Yeah, but they were very nice guys either. Lennon, I think, was a devil, or could be.
Well, he could be, but he could also be quite shy, and he had a lot of different sides to his personality.
Sure. I think he was, not schizophrenic.
He was a homebody.
Well, he's that. I actually, for George, I think George is the most unlikable one of all of them. For all his, mystical interest in the mystic and matters spiritual, Eastern religion, he seems like the most unlikable guy of all of them.
Yeah, I mean,
Lennon had his charm.
Lennon's charm. Paul was super good at handling people. George was more, kind of keeping to himself unless he had to promote an album or something.
Yeah, and then there's Ringo. We all strive to be Ringo in our lifetimes. God help us. But okay, so 3. You've listed Dylan. Are you saying that listing the Beatles as a group, or
well,
I'm talking about...
I think George, John, and Paul all transcend the music. I'll put Dylan up there. Other ones I'd have to give it some thought. Elvis Costello, Bono. It's an interesting question. I'd have to think about it.
Yeah, I've given it some thought. Costello has his famous, Ray Charles quote, which, was taken out of context and got him punched in the face by Bonnie Bramwell.
Yeah. Now, Elvis, of course, he is very articulate. His book is quite interesting, and his dad was the band leader of the Joe Loss Orchestra, so he came from a musical background.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's a musical genius, and very, very bright guy. Is he a likable guy? Early on, he didn't seem to like women very much, which is why some of those records are so great, because they're like Stones. They're Rolling Stones.
Yeah. Well, it's very much like Stones. Like, he's treating women like adversarial equals and creating great songs out of it.
Right. I understand that. You understand that. A lot of the culture at large may not, and it's Bono. I used to admire him greatly outside of the music, and I've wondered for years, but why so many people hate him? It's like, they think he's obnoxious because he's such a big mouth, and he has tried to use his celebrity for humanitarian reasons, which also, invariably involves politics, or politics, as they say in Kingston. And nowadays, I'm actually starting to find him a little irritating. He's still a great singer, a great man, a great musician, a great, poet or writer.
Costello?
I'm talking about Bono here.
Oh, Bono, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he is, he's got a showman-like, oversized personality that, of course, he's going to have haters, but more power to him. He's stuck by his guns, and, his voice is just incredible. I remember the last time I saw them live, they were, like, re-promoting the Joshua Tree album, which is like my least favorite U2 album, but what struck me is like his voice is so powerful. It's just like an opera singer. It just blows you over. It's just a force of nature, and I think a lot of people forget about that.
Yeah, he's a great natural singer. There's great singers and people with great voices. Sometimes the twain shall not meet.
Yeah.
Does Bob Dylan, is he have a great natural voice? Maybe not. Is he a great singer? Yes. Michael Bolton, did he have a great natural voice? Yes. Was he a great singer? Did he have a great voice in the literary sense, artistically? No. Bono has both.
Right.
In my book. So he still has it.
and he seems like he would be a fun guy to have a pint with.
Yeah. He's got a story. He was hanging out with Sinatra once. They did that duets album. And he was at Frank's house, apparently, down in the den or whatever, drinking whiskey. And, Bono passed out on the couch.
Oh, really?
Frank was on a tear. He was just telling stories and wouldn't shut up. Bono fell asleep briefly. He said he woke up, and Frank was still there, oblivious to the fact that Bono had passed out briefly, still just rambling on. So
that's interesting. I hadn't heard that story. I knew they hung out.
It's kind of funny that you might think it would be the opposite. Bono would be the one that would still be rambling.
Well, exactly.
Frank would be the one passing out.
This reminds me, I have an interesting observation about U2. I don't know if you've ever noticed this. Like, we hear a song like Seconds, like that the Edge sings.
Yeah.
Like, tonally, his voice almost sounds like Bono.
I know. Yeah.
And almost no one else on the planet sounds remotely like Bono. And the fact that two guys in the same band almost have the same tonality of their voice. I've noticed this in other bands sometimes. It's almost like the molecules get mixed or something. It's very strange.
Yeah, that is. I was talking earlier about, Bono claimed, early on he could never, duplicate or double track his own vocals, and that's where the Edge came in. And they both have very great natural voices. One's a great Irish tenor, the other's a great, Welsh tenor.
Yeah.
The Welsh have a great history of singing as well as the Irish do. And,
indeed.
Dave Evans is Welsh, not Irish.
Right.
Adam Clayton is English, not Irish. The only two Irishmen in the band actually are Bono and Larry. Yeah. But it's a little thinner voice than Bono's.
Yeah, it's not as powerful, but it's got like when you hear Seconds, the tonality is very similar.
Right, exactly.
Like most people, if they heard that, would just think it was Bono, if they didn't know U2 very well.
Say Van Diemen's Land from the Rattle and Hum soundtrack. That sounds less like Bono. It's a simpler, smaller folk song, and you can hear the thinness in the Edge's voice. It's still very pure, wonderful voice, but unlike Bono, which has a great voice and is a great singer, Edge isn't nearly as expressive.
I agree.
And that's, so he's got a great natural instrument.
Yeah.
But his real instrument is, the guitar.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to Season 2, Episode 2 of the Culture Drop Podcast. We're really excited about this. There's been a 5-year hiatus between this episode and the previous episode and the ones that came previously, which we recorded in 2018. So it's really fun to be back on the platform. If you could help us out, tell your friends about this, that would be great. We'd love to continue to bring you more exciting content. We've got lots of exciting topics to cover in the future.